On this first day of the new year, um, I've decided to do a video of my three youngest grandchildren. Um, I had three children of my own and an adult granddaughter. But the younger three, Jack, Owen, and TT, um, are special, in part because of their age, in part because of my age. Um, and therefore, this video is kind of a way of looking back um, a number of years to see those children growing and maturing and looking into the future. Um, so this first one is to Jack. Jack, I love you. I really do. And there are countless things that I remember about you. Um, and I don't know whether you remember this or not, but you were just about 3 years old. 3. You're twice that age now. And I was down your old home in Indy, and I was teaching an online art history class on a laptop. And you went past, and you said, "What's that, Papa?" I said, "Jack, that's a famous painting." I said, "You paint, you know." And you said, "Oh," and then you just toddled off. 10, 15 minutes later, you came back and you said, "Papa, what's that?" And I said, "Jack, that's another painting." And then it dawned on me. When I was a parent and when I was a grandparent the first time around, I saw it my responsibility to teach my children or my granddaughter the things that they needed to know. And I knew what they needed to know. And so I taught them. And I completely missed the drive that younger children have to learn. You're 6 years old now, and you know dozens and dozens of famous paintings and who painted them. You know more famous paintings than most Americans know that are adults. So after you're beginning your art history class with me, you're in my backyard that butts up against the ocean, the lake, and we were just throwing rocks into the lake. And you said, "What's this, Papa?" And you brought me, and it's in your fossil collection now, a fossilized half a dozen seashells in this little rock that you were going to throw in. You have an inquisitive mind. You want to know why. Why is this? What is this? Tell me what this is. You want to know. It's not the adult's responsibility of teaching you stuff that is important. If they just listen to you, they'll find out what's important to you. You and your brother Owen have a collection of fossils. I mean, you have more fossils in your home between you and your brother than probably 99% of the rest of the Americans, unless they're into being geologists. You're an amazing kid. And what's interesting is, as I look back on the 6 years that I've known you, since you've been around, it amazes me about this drive and this interest in you trying to understand things. And I look back and think, Jack, 2017 is going to be exactly like the years that were previous. you'll want to know, and you'll be driven to know. And that drive will cause you to succeed. You know, Papa teases you a lot, you and your brother. I'm not teasing you about this. You have a brain, and I know that you'll use it. Jack, I am proud of you, and I love you. And now this reflection and projection into the future relates to Owen. Owen, you and your brother are familiar with fossils and familiar with paintings. And there are dozens and dozens of stories that intrigue me. I mean, you are a thinker. We used to go for walks, especially up to the park and near the swimming pool where you live. And we would hold hands and we would walk, it's probably half a mile. And you would never say anything. You were always deep in thought. I would never interrupt you because I wanted you to process whatever you were thinking about. But one day, and you were, you couldn't have been 3, but we were talking in your new home about William Turner and the painting that he did called Hannibal Crossing the Alps. And I love Turner. I have several Turner paintings in my home. But Hannibal Crossing the Alps isn't, never will be my favorite painting, or even close to it. I really don't like it. But I was showing you and Jack that painting for you to find Hannibal on an elephant crossing the Alps. And it is difficult for anybody to see it, let alone 2 young kids. And so I was explaining the story of Turner painting this Hannibal crossing the Alps, and you and your brother took a few seconds, but you guys both found a real small picture of a very, very small elephant and a very, very small man on top of the elephant in this big, big painting. And then I went into discussing about how when Hannibal was crossing the Alps, it was snowy, and it was difficult for Hannibal to get all the elephants across the Alps because of all the ice and snow. And Jack was listening, and I thought you were just kind of sitting around waiting for us to get to something else. And all of a sudden, you got up and picked up one of Jack's favorite Hot Wheels. His favorite Hot Wheel is a Hot Wheel that he got that week. Next week is another. And I had given him that Hot Wheel that you turn cold water on, the color of the paint changes. And you picked it up, and I thought, boy, Jack's going to be really ticked off at you playing with his Hot Wheel. And you brought back the Hot Wheel, and I'm telling the story about Hannibal, and you're doing this. And I said, Owen, what are you doing? And you said, in essence, it would have been better having a car to help him draw the elephants across than having the elephants walking their way up the hills because of the ice and the snow. That was said as a 3-year-old. You and your brother are really smart kids. You have a collection of fossils, and I don't know what it was. Probably it was the dinosaur cropolite. And I was explaining what dinosaur cropolite was. and that when it was fossilized, what it originally was. And I said it was like what Mannix does in the backyard of your house. And you said, you know, like dinosaur poop? That's exactly what cropylite was. And this piece of cropylite that you got as a gift was sliced in half, and then each side was buffed. And you were fascinated by the shininess and the smoothness of the surface. And I noticed that. So many of your fossils that I got you, or that Darwin sends to me, and then I give to you, many of them are shiny. You have a clam that's very shiny, and you have several ammonites that are very shiny. And I think it was your last birthday, I gave you a very, very shiny ammonite. But the ammonite has ridges on the shell's side, the back side. So it wasn't a smooth surface. It was shiny and buffed, but it had ridges on it. And you loved playing with it. It was just rolling it around in your hands. And after we opened your birthday gifts and saying happy birthday and everything, I started to take the fossils up to put them in the box, the fossil box. And you said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to go put them in the box so they don't get lost. And so you said, no, you'll help me. So you took all 4 fossils, and we went up to Jack's room where the box was at the time. And I opened the top, and you gave me one at a time the fossils, and I put them in the box. But you held the last one, the one that you gotten for your birthday, and just kept on rolling it around your hands. And I just sat back and watched you. I knew that you were thinking, and I was just going to let you think about it and tell me what you want. Next thing you do, instead of giving me back the fossil to put in your box, you go and reach for an ammonite that's in your brother's collection already. That doesn't even look like the ammonite that you had, but you could see as a 3-year-old the similarity between the one you had and the several that we had in the box that you and your brother owned. You said, see, Papa, this ammonite is an ammonite. These are the same fossils. I said, Owen, absolutely correct. And so you put the one ammonite back, and you start digging through the fossils, and you got another one out. And it was an ammonite. And you said, see, Papa, this one also is the same fossil. You see? Owen, you're talking to a person that's almost 74 years old, and you're making sure that he understands what you understand. And you put that away. And then you got an ammonite that was your brother's, that big one that's really rough and beige color. And instead of putting it up so I could see it, you say, give me your hand. And I put my hand out, and you put the ammonite that was in the box in my hand, and you open up my other hand, and you put yours in, and see, Papa, see, they were the same ones. It amazes me that somebody that is your age could understand that, could see that. You and your brother are amazing 2 children. And if you're 4 years old, those first 4 years of your life are amazing to me. Can you imagine what they'll be like when you're 5 and 6 and 7 and in college and grad school? And you have a brain and you're caring. There's nothing else you need. And this third granddaughter section of this video is about TT. TT was was 9 years old when I first met her. In the past 50 years, since I graduated from grad school in the late 60s, I've traveled numerous times around the world. I've been to three or four dozen different countries. I've gone to school overseas. I have been toured guides to places overseas. I have been in tours overseas. But of all the countries that I've ever visited, the one single most exceptional country that I've ever been to is yours, TT, Burma or Myanmar. I kid you not. I'm Scottish. I went to school in Scotland for a year. I've been to Scotland twice. I love Scotland. But in comparison to your country and to my experiences in your country, there's no country that equals yours. You know, I loved all the places I've visited, in the Golden Rock and Yangon and Mandalay and Bagan, Inlet Lake. It was just, they're all beautiful places and nice places, and but the two things I remember most about a month in Myanmar, just over 3 years ago. The two things I remember most and I cherish most were going to a protest rally with Min Kun Aung in Yangon, near Shilabagota, where in 8888 the uprising occurred. That was for me an emotional experience. Trust me. It took me back to when I was just starting out in my life, as far as my work. Education was behind me, and I was going to go to work. And man, I'll tell you, the civil rights movement and all of that, it was the same thing that was going on back 40 years ago, or 50 years ago in the United States, was going on in Burma or Myanmar in the present day. Shilabagota is it's hard for me to describe what emotionally that meant to me. And I'm not Burmese, but it meant something to me. The other important thing that happened while I was in Myanmar was your mother had to pick up some materials at your home. And she said, you can meet my daughter, Titi. She's home on some vacation or something. We came through your front door and she said, hi, my name's Titi. How are you? Would you like to play some games with me? And we played, I tried to teach you how to play tic-tac-toe, and you're kind of bored with it. She says, and then you said to me, would you like to play Scrabble? Do you know how to play Scrabble? I said, oh, I could beat you at Scrabble. Well. So we sat down on the floor and you got a piece of paper and we started to play Scrabble. And we played that game for probably 45 minutes or an hour. And after the game was over, I simply said, hey, Titi, that was fun. I said, we have to do that again sometime. And you said, no, let me add up the score. And I watched you add up the results of us playing for about an hour. And your eyes lit up. And you said, I won. And I took my finger and I said, Titi, you never forget that. Don't you ever forget that you be a person old enough to be your grandfather in his game, in his language, in your country. Don't ever forget that. And you've seen this picture of my, your picture of my office wall in my home. The picture I took of you at your home 3 years ago. Smiling, beautiful young face of a 9-year-old. And you know who is the picture just below yours? And that is Aung San Suu Kyi, the lady. And Titi, what amazes me about the two of you is that you follow in kind of her steps. This is not an egalitarian world. This is not a place where men and women are treated equally. But the lady has said, too bad. She's going to take care of changing things. And interestingly, you're just like that. You're driven to be all that you can be. Don't ever change that. Interestingly, your mother and you and the lady all have that same drive. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of your mother and your daddy and your 2 younger sisters. But Titi, I will see you again soon. I promise you. So as you look back on now you're almost 12 or 13 years old, as you look back upon your past, and I look back upon the time I spent with you, you remember, young lady, that your future is ahead of you, and it can be anything you want it to be. And you're driven to succeed, and you will. So will the lady, so your mommy and your daddy, and your 2 younger sisters. So to Jack, Owen, and Titi, Happy New Year. I love each of you, and I'm proud of each of you. Have a great year. Take care.